All right, we're live. We're back. Hello, everybody. I'm Sunny Ray. This is the Sunny Ray Show. Today, I'm joined by Pedro Lopez Sela. Pedro, how are you today?
Fine, really excited to talk to you, Sunny. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, likewise, likewise. It takes a few minutes for people to trickle in, but welcome everyone to the show. Uh, so, maybe before we go into your backstory, which I'm always curious about, and kind of tracking people's hero's arc, maybe just give people like a sentence or two, Pedro, if you don't mind, on what you're working on today, the mission of the organization, the company, the yeah, and then maybe we'll put that on ice for a little bit and come back to it near the end of the interview. Yeah.
Of course. So, at the moment, what we're doing is basically building deep tech ecosystems. What we're trying to do is get those entrepreneurs from the global south that are building the next gen technology to solve a grand global challenge and supporting them. This is a place where 85% of the population of the planet lives, where you have the most difficult problems, challenges, situations. And for the last, I don't know, 30 years, the best and brightest of those countries have been acquiring the knowledge of Ivy League universities. So if you go today to South Africa, Vietnam, Nigeria, Peru, you're going to find that they have the same kind of knowledge and a similar type of infrastructure than the best universities in the world. So these guys are really building technology to solve the next big thing. And from what we've seen, there are very little to few platforms that support them, not only capital wise, but also stuff related to business developing, scale the technology, and all that stuff. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to solve the big problems with fantastic people, really, really smart, that are building stuff from scarcity in a very frugal kind of way.
I like that. Cool. Well, like I said, let's. I have a lot of questions on that topic.
Of course.
Let's get into it in a few minutes. I was really interested in while I was reading your background, Pedro. So you've been an entrepreneur since the early '90s, right? So I was curious,
Yeah.
what was the first thing you ever built?
It was crazy because it was this opportunity I had in high school. I was born and raised in Mexico, and in Mexico, in order to do legal stuff, you have to go through law school, and that's 5 years after high school. So I was beginning high school, and for some reason, a friend of my father trusted me with helping him solve a thing, an issue that he had, a litigation problem that he had with an ex partner. And I was a kid. I was 16 years old. Of course, I was not a lawyer. What I did was just get the client, find a lawyer that I could subcontract, and manage the thing. And it worked beautifully. And I got paid, and I was super excited. I was, just a kid getting money because I was kind of like a lawyer. And I started a law firm, and it was a mess. It was awful. I spent all the money like super quickly, paying for the offices and hiring people and stuff. And before I couldn't even, I could get the second client, I was broke. That was my first experiment in building a company. It lasted for about like 6 months, probably.
You studied law, biotech, philosophy, engineering across 4 different countries. So, what were you actually looking for?
I'm going to give you a terrible answer, but I was just trying to learn something new. My journey, I guess, as an entrepreneur and as a professional, uh, sometimes if you read it, sounds like super strategic. There's only curiosity behind that. I went to law school because my family is heavily on lawyers. My father, a few uncles, my one of my grandparents. But then in the middle of the process, I started working for intellectual property. So I got introduced to the biotech world, and that completely got me engaged. and that's why I got into, for example, biotech. But then, understanding biotech, I also understood that it had to do a lot with public policy and law, regulation. So I went to another university and studied public policy and European communities. And I also understood it had to do a bit of about the money and the market. So I went to study international commerce. And then I figured out that philosophy was important because I needed to understand like the basics of the basics. So I went and did that. And that has been my journey, to tell you the truth. And it's a lot of fun, because it's very liberating, being able to finish any kind of program, graduate, undergraduate, postgraduate. And then after that, just jumping to the next chunk of knowledge that you want to digest, and meet new people, and understand different views.
Fascinating. So you've spent years training thousands of entrepreneurs before you ever even ran a fund. So what did teaching show you that doing couldn't?
When you're on that side of the classroom, uh, the accountability, the weight of being the person having the answers, is overwhelming. Uh, and that basically, on the one hand, makes you study a lot more than the student, but it also helps you understand things in more depth. And that gives you, in my case specifically, a more transversal kind of view, which gives you lateral thinking, being able to connect dots that other people cannot.
Fascinating. So you co-founded so 20 plus companies, many
Yeah, it's been
acquired or
crazy.
merged. What's the failure that shaped you the most?
Ooh, uh, I don't talk often about this, but I had a partner. This is a few years ago, that he basically became the manager of the monies of the group that we were pushing at the time. So he had access to all the bank accounts. Uh, Before we knew it, after probably working with the guy for about 7 years, uh, the money disappeared, and so did he. It was terrible. And we ended up, of course, we had to just close the companies, and fire the people that were working there. We even started a process, a penal process with the guy, and it took us 3 years because in Mexico legislation is super slow. Whatever you want to do in a judicial process, the terms that you have in legislation are, you file a paper and then you get an answer like 6 months after that. It's crazy. So anyway, after 3 years of litigation, we finally were able to win. And a week before we were gonna get our money back, the guy got shot and he died. So it was, I mean, how can you predict that, right?
That's a big one. And what did you learn from that, Pedro?
I guess I'm still digesting it,
Mm,
because one of the things that could have been like a direct reaction would be don't trust anybody. Uh,
mm.
that's not the way that I do business. That's not the way I build community, and I work with my partners. So I'm still trying to figure it out. Maybe be a bit more cautious, but definitely cannot start a relationship without trust.
Yeah. So let's maybe switch gears a little bit. I wanted to ask you about kind of like your aha moment, right? So when did AI stop being a buzzword for you and start feeling like something that, actually changes everything?
It has never been. Uh, we're excited about it as a tool,
Mm,
but I have been able to live those revolutions. For example, with the .com, or the smartphone and that sort of thing. And I had in the past a few software factories, when the .com bubble. And one of the things that we learned is that when you have this groundbreaking moment, no Gutenberg moment about an exponential technology, it takes a while for people to understand it. So when everything went crazy, 5 years ago or so, and we started seeing, forget about entrepreneurs, some funds just changing their investment thesis completely and just dropping what they were doing and then only focused on AI. And I don't believe in that. I think it's a fantastic technology for human augmentation, for sure. uh, but then again, uh, as a technician, you can be specialized in AI, but as an entrepreneur or as an investor, you have to be specialized on the client or the sector that you're going to be working at, and AI is going to be a tool. Because if you are the expert in AI, and that means probably that you do not necessarily understand the market. So I'm very excited about it. We're building right now a company builder based on AI, which is fantastic because it basically has inside a lot of agents that give feedback to the entrepreneur about the business model. So again, I like the thing. We're also building another platform for uh, medicine based on plants. Again, agents reading scientific papers telling you how to cure disease or prevent disease with teas and stuff. It's very cool. But I'm very cautious about those sort of technologies, and I don't believe that these CEOs firing 40% of their workforce because now we have some AI agent or something. I don't think that's the right way to go. That's not the approach.
It's Wallaby, right? That you're referring to, the company?
Which one?
When you mentioned the company that helps build products, is it Wallaby or what's the name of the company? You mentioned you guys are building a company. Anyways,
Ah, it's
yeah, yeah.
Wise.
Wise is the name. Got it. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So let's maybe move towards a little bit more towards is it Frizon Capital? Am I pronouncing it correctly?
We don't know the pronunciation, to tell you the truth. We say Frizon because it's a French word, and we are not French, right, or Canadian. But it's a word in French, Frizon.
Okay.
But we just say Frizon Capital.
So walk me through what you guys do. Like, what's the problem you're solving? And yeah, and kind of like talk a little bit about your mission.
Yeah, it's a U.S. Investment firm.
Okay.
And what we're trying to do with Frizon Capital is basically, again, find those gems in the global south, the guys that are with frugal innovation, state of the art tech, solving big challenges. And again, it doesn't have to be sexy. We're looking for real problems. The effort of Frizon basically has diversified so far into geographies. We come from a vast experience for the last like 25 years of building ecosystems. So we believe a lot in the agents of the ecosystems and in specific sectors where you can build community. So we have one operation in Latin America that is basically focused on technology for the health industry, any part of the value chain. So of course it can be an organ printer, a molecule, a robot for a surgery. But if you have like I don't know, a blockchain for traceability of drugs, if you have an AI for logistics of ambulances, if you have a fintech for drugstores, any kind of technology for the sector, we're interested in. And on the other hand, we're also operating in Southeast Asia, and there we're more focused on Web3, AI, blockchain, and that sort of thing.
Very interesting. Why health?
Because nobody's doing it.
Hmm. Do you buy
So
into this longevity thesis? This sorry, what is it?
yes
Live
and
for
no.
forever, don't die movement.
Yes and no. So why health? We're really good at trailblazing, And when we started the fund and we were searching for investment thesis, we started mapping startups, incubators, funds, etc. And we came to realize that since most of the team is based in America, Canada, US, Chile, Mexico, Brazil, we wanted to operate in Americas, right? And mapping the region, we understood that stuff like fintech, prop tech, and that sort of thing is thriving in Latin America. In the case of health, we were able to find about 400 startups that were supported by entities that were not specialized in health. And if you're building something and you're being a first time entrepreneur and you have a support of someone that does not understand FDA, then that's going to be a problem. Because you need, approval of sanitary authorities and all that stuff. And it's super complicated. It's almost as complicated as building the technology. So we did find about 120 entities supporting entrepreneurs, about 140 investors, but nobody knew about the local FDAs. And that's what led us in understanding there was a massive opportunity there. So we started building the ecosystem. And for the last 4 years, we've been doing that. So on the one hand, we've been, mapping the actors and connecting them. And on the other hand, where we see gaps, we've been building stuff that can help us connect. So for example, we right now have an online community that we host in WhatsApp, where we have hundreds of people, entrepreneurs, investors, academics, directors of corporates, focused on entrepreneurship and innovation in health. That thing has been going on for the last probably year and a half or two. We started building a program, Introduction to Entrepreneurship in Health. We've had so far editions in 23, 24, and 25. And with that, we've trained 1,000 people. Average age 55, directors of National Institutes of Health, hospitals, corporates, very diverse. We have computer engineers, mathematicians, medics, nurses. And for example, with that thing, we ended up building a foundation, a non-for-profit. We hired a CEO for the non-for-profit, and we took the wheels off the bike, and now the guy's running it. So this edition, he's going to be the one in charge of that, and we just parted ways. And there's a new actor in the ecosystem. For the community, we did the same thing. Once we grew it to about 300 or so, we hired last year another CEO. He's now in the process of building the non-for-profit, and now he's going to be in charge of having an event every September, kind of like TechCrunch Disrupt, where we can have innovation conversations and showcase startups and stuff focused on health in Latin America. We built a company builder, the first one with labs in Latin America. So we partnered with the largest research institutions so that we could get access to their infrastructure and their PhDs. And we've been running the thing since summer last year. We've supported probably about like 15 startups so far. We're about to onboard about 6, and we're reviewing 10 more. And that's the sort of thing that we've been doing, so that, we can have a funnel that is very transparent and very efficient for the entrepreneur. And that, for us as a fund, gives us the possibility of having very little to none input and having a de-risked portfolio of investments.
Very interesting. Hey, maybe help me land this plane, Pedro. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this interview. What does the world look like in 10 years if the bets you're making pay off?
It's a very complex question. I think that the velocity of the evolution of the technologies that we have right now, those growths. I mean, I'm sure your audience knows this, but having, for example, things like CRISPR technology, like AI, like quantum computing, growing, multiplying or doubling their capacity 140 trillion times by 2030. That basically says to me that it's almost impossible to predict. I'm pretty sure that we're going to be living longer. The advancement in medicine right now is going crazy. So it's not only the quality of life, but right now we're being able to start building spare parts for the body, which is crazy to me. Um, and then you have these farms of transgenics where you don't need to wait for an organ donor. You can basically purchase it online with a pig that has your genetics. So longevity is going to be something totally different. We're starting to, and this is exciting to me, going back to the basics. So at some point in time, we're heavily focused on chemical stuff for drugs for curing disease, but we were not anticipating disease. And for the last probably 10 years, there's a lot of people going back to traditional medicine and understanding their principles so that you can, in a more preventive kind of way, have a better health in a more with more nature-based products with ancestral knowledge. I find that super exciting. The stuff that we see right now, for example, with psychedelics as an alternative to mental health, again with microdosing, fantastic. And then aside from health, which is I'm a geek for that. All the other stuff is gonna be super exciting as well. Course, as any other kid, I get super excited about rockets and Mars and space. But I also think that there are a lot of people building fantastic technology to heal the planet. There's a very important movement, I think, of people doing amazing technology related to climate action and sustainability, changing pH of the oceans, and that sort of thing. I also think is gonna change a lot of our relationship with how the world is looking right now.
Awesome. Hey, Pedro, I just realized we never really brought context to the title from Nobel laureate to AI startup investor. I guess it's somewhat self-explanatory, but do you want to maybe close the interview on that note?
Yeah, I've been blessed all my life, but especially in my entrepreneurial journey. I've been standing on the shoulders of giants since I was a kid. I was able to work with and be a mentee to people like Norman Burlock, like Mario Molina. Uh, I have worked alongside with people like Salim Ismail, Peter Diamandis, Jeff Hoffman. It has been fantastic, and I guess my learning from that is that, in essence, people are always very generous. And that's the reason why we do so much pro bono, thinking of, a bit of giving back, a bit of paying forward, but it's just, an inter-exchange of generosity that we've seen a lot of times in our journey as entrepreneurs. And with those guys supporting the initiatives that we've been pushing, that's the reason, I guess, why we've been able to build communities and become successful entrepreneurs, solving challenges for people that are actually waiting for real solutions.
Yeah, I love Peter Diamandis. In fact, on a live stream this morning, I was just talking about Raymond Kurzweil and
Mm,
all these like amazing books that I had the good fortune to read. 15, 20 years ago, and yeah, a lot of that stuff is coming true. I mean, this AI stuff is just insane. I mean, it's been a few years it's been around, but I still feel like I'm living in a dream. Every day I feel just oh, the capacity to do more, to be more. I love it. I love it. Pedro, thank you so much for this time. I only got through a sliver of my questions. I would love to have you on again sometime. I know you're a
of
busy
course.
man, but what a beautiful interview. And with that, I will bring this to an end. Hang out for a minute. Thank you all for tuning in. And until next time, cheers.